Hello and welcome back to NHB Retro. It's been a little while since I've put together a project on this channel, so that's what I'm going to do today. And the project in question is one of these BlueSCSI devices. Now, if you're not familiar with them, this is basically a SCSI device emulator that allows you to use an SD card, and it will plug into your standard SCSI connector. In this case, we have a DB25 style SCSI connector, but they make versions with various different SCSI connectors on them. And yeah, basically lets you mount a file basically onto this SD card and use it as if it were a SCSI device on the system. I believe you can actually put several files and it'll emulate several SCSI devices at one time. Anyway, as you can see, I did buy the kit version. Now the kit version is extremely simple. We have this motherboard. The connector is not yet soldered in, but it is just snapped on there. So we'll be connecting that. And then we have a Raspberry Pi Pico, of course. Once again, this is a device that punches well above its apparent weight by having a very powerful modern processor doing all the heavy lifting. And it comes in this package here. We'll just need to attach the legs to it and then mount it to the PCB. Now, there are a number of surface mount components, as you can see on the PCB itself. Even in the kit form, that's already done for you, so you don't have to worry about that. And it's just these really very few through-hole components that you need to solder down. So that should be relatively simple. Let's get it put together. All right, first step here is going to be to solder down the DB25 connector itself. As I mentioned, it came already snapped into place even, so all we got to do is get that soldered. So let's go ahead and get that done. As usual, I'm going to be doing just a pin on either corner first. And we'll just double check the alignment. Make sure those are good in there. That looks good. Alrighty, up next, we get to put these pin headers that are acting as the legs for the Raspberry Pi Pico on here. And the only real trick here is that you want to get them aligned. There's a number of ways to do that. You can, put this whole thing into like a breadboard to hold the pins exactly right. I'm just going to go ahead and do first one pin here, and then I'll just check visually for the alignment. It'll, basically so that it's pushed up flat against these, against the black plastic part, and we'll go from there. Okay, and we can see that these did come out pretty straight. That looks pretty good to me. So I'm going to go ahead and do the exact same thing with the other row of pins. All right, cleaned up a little bit of the flux there, but those came out pretty good, and you can see they actually are pretty nice and straight. So that brings us to our final step, which is just to attach the Raspberry Pi itself. I believe it goes on this way, which I will double check because that's not the kind of thing you want to get wrong. but yeah, it's actually a nice fit right there onto those pins. So now all we got to do is solder each one of those pins onto there. Okay, that went pretty well. Fairly straightforward, just a bit awkward with some of those long pins sticking up and trying to solder around the camera, but yeah, that turned out pretty good. I think now we can go ahead and plug it into a computer and run the tests to see if everything's working. All right, we should be ready to do our first test, which basically just involves with no SD card inserted, we're just going to plug in USB cable, and I think that was it. You see that we get a flashing green light. All right, now let's move on to the next step. Okay, for the next phase of the testing, we have a blank formatted exFAT SD card. Just get this lined up with the slot there. Make sure that's inserted, and then we connect the power again. Okay, and now we should be able to disconnect the power, and we're going to mount that SD card onto the computer, and we should see a log file. Okay, the log file was created. It looks like everything's working normally. All we need to do now is copy some hard drive images onto this thing, and we can plug it into a computer and test it out. Okay, we've got the nice 3D printed case snapped on there. We're going to power it via USB. Seems to want that with this setup at least. And I'm going to plug it directly into an Apple II GS that has an Apple SCSI card in it. All right, and let's see what happens. Okay, and the system is booting into System 6.0.4. This is one of the hard drive images pre-built. I believe it's linked from the BlueSCSI GitHub page. Obviously, this is a pre-built Apple II GS System 604 image, an HDA, and I just copied it. I think it was already actually even named the right thing, the right naming convention. And boom, there it goes. It boots right up from the SCSI device. All I had to do was set the slot search order to have the SCSI device itself be the, it's in slot 2 on this machine. I just made slot 2 the first highest priority boot slot. And yeah, it boots right into 604. And you see, we have three separate drives, logical drives with this hard drive image. Let's see here. Yeah, I think they're all, each one of these is a 32 meg image, which is the max ProDOS size. Yeah, there you go. So yeah, that was pretty cool. Let me get back to a lighted room, and we will sort of wrap up this project. And there you have it, one BlueSCSI device assembled from the kit. Actually, calling it a kit is, boy, it's almost a stretch. It's so easy to put this thing together. As you saw, there's really just the two components to attach to the board, all the surface mounts are done for you. Yeah, if you're wanting to get some practice at soldering, a good first project and something that's actually very, very useful, this is a good project. Went together easy, worked the first time. There's clear instructions. I'll put a link to the project's GitHub page in the comments here. That'll have links from there to get you to the assembly instructions, all the hard drive images, and that sort of thing. So yeah, with that, I think I'm going to wrap it up. Hopefully you enjoyed watching the BlueSCSI go together, and I will catch you on the next one.